space, the final frontier.
Sir, the Federation does have enemies. We must seek them out.
Yes. That's how it starts.
If we're all here, where's Sue? Captain Sue.
But we can only look forward.
Warning! Warning!
We have to be torchbearers, casting the light so we may see our path to lasting peace. We will continue exploring, discovering new worlds, new civilizations.
Is that all this meant to you? Just another spatial anomaly, just another day of darkness.
Do you ever see Star Trek?
The three of us and millions of primitive humans. I like those odds. Kapla!
It looks like Star Trek, it acts like Star Trek, and it feels like Star Trek.
Status report.
The next story comes from...
Status report.
Star Trek really was my best friend, and I took the time to learn everything about it. You know, I studied the ins and outs of the Enterprise. I got the Starfleet manual, the concordance. You know, a lot of people don't have any idea what a Jeffries tube is. I made it my business to understand.
Yes.
We'll just keep going, waiting for Daniel, I guess.
Yes.
It's my favorite part.
That is
TrekCast. TrekCast.
It is
Is that new?
Yeah,
Nice.
that is new.
Very nice.
That is the poster the girls got for me for Father's Day.
Nice. Oh!
There he is.
He decided to join us.
Exactly.
You're not really loud today, Dan.
Right here?
All right, welcome to TrekCast TNG. I am Chad Waldo. With me, as always, is Dan Lombardo, and Daniel Reyes. Hey, we gotta have a flow
Hello.
somewhere in there. We are the most unpredictable Star Trek podcast on the interwebs. Welcome everybody back. It's been a few weeks, as it is in the summertime, but we are ready to go.
I like the schematic.
It I want to clarify something for everyone. We are not the podcast that threatened to murder William Shatner. I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah.
And that should be all we have to say about that.
Wow. Yeah.
That was not good. All the
No.
way around.
No.
All the way around. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
anyway,
I don't even
So-
have words for that.
with
Well,
that said,
I just sucked all the air out of the minivan.
yeah.
Tell you
Yeah.
And I don't know if your volume's turned down, Dan, but you're not real loud today.
I'm not.
Are you guys hearing me pretty loud this morning, or am I quiet again?
I hear you pretty good.
No, you're loud. Am I too low or I'm just right?
No, you're kind of in the background a little bit. I don't know.
Are you chulo?
Are you Cholo?
I'm a chulo.
Oh,
Speaking
chulo.
Speaking of that interesting little intro that Dan gave us, how about this?
I also have Mexican judo. You don't know if I got a gun. You don't know if I got a knife. You don't know if I got friends outside Maine.
That's right. That's right.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Chad's got his new software, which means anything we've ever said to him ever, he's chopping it up and
What do they say?
putting it on the
Anything that you
soundboard.
say can and will be used against you
Yep.
over and over and over again.
and over again. That's right. That's right. So, at any moment, the listeners won't know if you guys are really talking or if it's a recording you're playing.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
That's how that's going to go.
That's great.
All right, hey Daniel, if you can do one favor for me too, because you're always like off to the left or the right of your video. You're never in the center. There you go. Maybe
Yeah.
today your head won't get cut off.
I'm bobbing and weaving.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what's been going on last few weeks, guys?
Oh, a lot of family stuff lately.
Yeah.
Just hanging out with the family. We did an outdoor movie for the kids recently.
Nice.
Yeah, that was a blast. Saw Kung Fu Panda 2. Never seen it before.
No.
Yeah.
Isn't there 3 of those?
Is there what?
Isn't there 3 of those Kung Fu Pandas?
Yeah. I've never seen any of them, so I was lost in the story. I had no idea what was going on.
We saw Toy Story 4.
Yes. How was that?
It was good. Something interesting that I noticed, in a lot of those in those movies, sometimes the toys that they depict are actual toys brought to life.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're toys that are meant to be other toys. Like there was a character, his name is Duke something, but he was the motorcycle guy, and he's
Evil
wearing
Knievel.
a white.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be Evil Knievel, which Evil Knievel is decidedly American. Just looking at his. So this guy, he was all Canadian. So he had
it's Keanu Reeves, right?
Yeah. But it was totally supposed to be Evil Knievel, which was cool. But then on the other hand, I noticed in the background there were actual Star Wars figures fighting with each other. There was a Darth Vader and a Ben Kenobi, like a 1970s era, which is interesting because Pixar is owned by Disney and now Star Wars is owned by Disney, so they don't have to do a lookalike figure anymore. They could use the actual characters. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, but it's a good movie. My son enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
There's a ton of movies coming out between now and pretty much the end of the year that it's gonna be. I'm gonna be hard pressed to go see all of them or even half of them. I mean, obviously, Spider-Man coming out next month is the big one for me in between now and the fall. But I don't know. I actually want to see Maleficent. I don't know why, but I do. That comes out in October, like October 18th.
What is that?
The sequel to Maleficent. Snow White, or not Snow White, but I guess that's Snow White, isn't it? Anyway, that's the Angelina Jolie movie where she basically played a gargoyle.
Yeah.
Okay.
As a witch.
I'm supposed to see the new Child's Play this weekend.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a horror film guy. I don't. Although Adam Driver has that new one that came out or is about to come out with Bill Murray.
Yeah, the zombies.
Cops. Yeah, that looks hysterical.
That looks hilarious.
I want to see that.
My buddy has a part in that movie.
Oh yeah.
Oh really?
He plays one of the zombies. Yeah. So I'll have to see if I can. I'll have to see if I can point him out.
That'll be fun.
That's awesome.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
So
really
cool. All right, we want to get right into the news. We got a huge amount of news in this last week.
Yeah,
it? So
incoming subspace signal.
That's not the right one.
That's not the right one. Whatever. We're unpredictable. We do what we want.
Good. Find the right. What's the right?
Yeah, find the right one.
I don't know what the right one is.
Well, just keep hitting buttons.
It's not.
That's how I am with dating. I don't know which one's the right one.
You just keep hitting buttons until she does something.
That's about how it goes. Yeah.
Ouch.
What is this Tinder thing? You click.
Left, right, up, down.
Yeah.
Oh,
I have no idea what's going on.
Okay,
Yeah.
Here. This is the right one. Hold on. Here we go. Nope. Sorry. Here we go.
Attention all hands. It's time for Star Trek news.
I like when it's in stereo like that.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll start with the sad news first. Our first story comes from Gizmodo. Headline is, Rest in peace, Peter Allen Fields, one of the minds behind the Star Trek's most powerful episodes. So if you didn't know, Peter Allen Fields is a television screenwriter who wrote a lot for Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. He recently passed away. It was announced online by Ira Stephen Bear, longtime showrunner for DS9. And Mr. Fields did quite a bit. He wrote 13 episodes in TNG and 10 episodes in DS9. He contributed a lot to a lot of Loxana-centered episodes, and he even wrote The Inner Light.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So he will definitely be missed, but we have his great work to remember him by. So that's pretty cool.
Yep.
So what was it, like 23 episodes?
Total. That's contributed to him. Typically, though, in a writer's room, you're bouncing around ideas. So.
Well, I was also going to say that's 23 scripts that made it to the screen.
Yeah.
That doesn't even represent the amount of work that he put forward. There's probably another 25 scripts that just didn't make it to the screen. So, which is still a contribution to the franchise.
Here's another one he wrote that, we might remember. In the Pale Moonlight.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. I had no idea, and I don't pay attention to who writes which episodes, but that's probably like two of my those two episodes are probably my top
me
five.
Too.
And to come to find out, written by the same guy.
Yep.
And now he's
that's
gone.
Else, man.
That's
something else.
But now that you know that, you can kind of see that in the episodes how like character based they are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he will definitely be missed.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say both of those episodes are just really powerful stories that have nothing to do with spaceships and lasers and photon torpedoes or anything. You could take both of those stories and put them in a different setting with different characters, and they'd still be incredibly powerful stories. So I'm kind of bummed to hear that he's no longer with us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, speaking of which, I'm about ready to watch Far Beyond the Stars in my DS9 rewatch. I'm right there at that episode.
Oh, okay.
That's another great, it's got to be in the top 5 or so, or somewhere in there. I mean, I don't know, you start banding around your favorite ones, the ones you think are the best, and you say, well, that's my top 5, and by the time you think about it, well, I just put 15 episodes in my top 5, so. But,
it's real!
Yeah.
Does the whole Dominion War count as one episode? Can we do that?
It should.
Yeah. It was a mini movie almost.
Yeah, well,
Piece
longer
it all
than the
together,
movie.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So
our next...
Go ahead.
Yeah, our next news story comes from CBR.com, and the headline reads, Star Trek's Alex Kurtzman teases 4 more live-action short treks. So Alex Kurtzman is making the news, and actually that's going to be our topic later today.
Oh, man.
But he had also giving a few different interviews this week. This one was most recently to Deadline, the website.
Did he give them before or after he got fired?
Yeah, this would be before he got fired.
That was his exit interview. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
it was an exit.
Yeah.
Exit interview. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Yes. So he said that that they're going to do some more short treks. There's 6 of them being planned right now. 4 of them will be live action, and 2 will be animated.
Really?
Yeah. So one of the animated ones is going to be directed by, I forget the name of that lady, but she's directing the first 2 episodes of Picard. That same lady.
Kachawana.
Yeah. So she's doing one of those.
That.
Yeah. Her.
No offense, I just don't know how. I mean, there's like every vowel in the alphabet is in her name, so I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm not trying to be like mean or anything. I don't know how to pronounce it.
I feel like 5 years from now she's going to be like someone that we really know because of how tied she's. Yeah. So
very heavily. Well, she's done this disco now. She's done one of the 2 of the short treks actually, I think, and then now she's doing Picard. I mean, she's heavily tied into it.
So did they make reference to whether or not these short treks are tied to Discovery, tied to Picard, or tied to something else?
They haven't announced one way or the other. The animated one sounds like they're going to go more towards those kid shows that they're making, but they haven't definitively said that one way or another. They said that the animations will be a different tone and aimed at kids more than adults.
Yep.
So.
Okay.
Cool.
I did read in one of the details of those interviews. It's kind of buried a little bit. Alex Kurtzman did say that, or Kurtzman, whatever. He did say that one of those 4 live actions is going to be the 40-year-old Ensign starring Harry Kim.
Nice. Nice. As long as he yells Kelly Clarkson, I'm all good. Yeah. Nice. So so they're making more short treks. That's exciting. I'm pretty excited about that. And then, oh no, I accidentally clicked out of the last story.
Nope, you killed the whole show right there.
That's it. We're done. It's over. The last news story is... Huh?
I was going to start singing. Go ahead.
The last news story comes from thescottishsun.co.uk. And pretty neat little story. A minister recently decided to dress up like Captain Kirk at a funeral for a Star Trek fan. So not a lot of details here because it won't load up the whole thing. But basically, this guy is well known for being a Star Trek fan. And so the minister decided to try to dress up like Kirk and, say goodbye. So I thought that was nice.
Yeah, I mean, I dress as Kirk for every funeral I go to, whether the person's a Trekkie or not. So I mean, I'm really.
You don't see the difference then.
No.
I don't even have to know the person that died. I just randomly show up at funerals dressed as Captain Kirk.
Yep.
That's very sweet of you.
It's Funeral Crashers, starring Dan Lombardo.
That's it.
Or as we sometimes say, Dan Lombardi.
Apparently, he also greeted.
I get Don Lombardi all the
time.
Don
Lombardi, yeah.
I guess. I don't know.
Whatever. He greeted mourners with the Vulcan salute.
Ah.
Yeah. So that's cool. Yeah. That's it. I'm done. I don't have any more news stories.
All right. So now it's time to do this one.
Incoming subspace signal.
For the feedback portion of the show. Okay. I don't know if you have anything ready, Daniel, because
I don't.
We only do this every single show. So
right. But no, I didn't have
prepared.
anything.
Yeah.
I looked. There was nothing.
Well, one thing I did want to mention is, we still have a coffee account, ladies and gentlemen. I know we're not in the middle of disco season where we're coming out with a new show every single week as a review of the current episode or even with the Orville or anything else. And we're kind of out to this 2-week thing, which some people kind of look at and go, my God, when's the next show coming out? That's how I feel. With that said, we still have a coffee account. We're still making improvements to the show. We're still here every 2 weeks. Once some of the new show, yeah, exactly. Your headset, which honestly I think you're on speakerphone or something because it doesn't sound as good as it did last time we recorded.
Really?
Yeah, it really. I don't know what the deal is there, but anyway. So yeah, he's got a new headset. The sound's going to be great once he gets that fixed. The new software is in play, allowing us to do all this different stuff in the middle of the show.
Get your act together.
Any audio we've got can go right into it. So our editing time on the audio side goes way down. Go ahead.
Do I sound any different now?
Nope. Still quiet. I don't know what the deal is with that, but you can move that mic away and keep talking, and I bet you'll sound the same.
Check 1, check 2.
Yep.
Check 1, check 2.
Exact same.
Check 1, check 2.
Are you going through the Bluetooth, maybe?
No, I shut the Bluetooth off. It's the first thing I did.
But hey, we've got improvements coming. I've updated the studio a little bit for the look here. And of course, Dan is going to always be in the van down by the river.
That's it. That's what I do.
Yep. And Daniel, of course, is going to be there in his awesome, fabulous studio where we can see Voltron in the background. So with that said,
defending us.
We still have the coffee account. We have not used any of the funds that have gone into that account so far for all of these improvements, the website, the blogs, everything else. You can go read my crappy writing on our website now, so that's wonderful. So with that said, I want to say thank you to those who have already donated to the coffee account. Mike Medina, you're our top contributor, man. So one of these days, we got to reward you for that. Either have you on the show or something. Not going to make you the Facebook moderator, buddy. I don't know if we should do that.
I think he gets the first edition of the Men of TrekCast calendar.
There you go. Yeah, we need to bring that back and do the Men of TrekCast calendar. That would be fantastic. So, but again, for all those who have donated, thank you. That money is eventually going to go to further improve the show and add some new additions. And we got a lot of things coming up that are huge that we really can't mention just yet.
Not just yet, no.
Not just yet, but they're huge. Trust me, they are huge. So, but we're working on a lot of things.
You all will be surprised.
Oh my God, you'll be so. I was shocked. So,
yeah.
And I have an interview coming up. I'm actually going to record it tomorrow with two guys from another Star Trek fan film. Two guys that have written a book. You've probably heard of this series on YouTube, Star Trek New Voyages. So I'll be talking to 2 guys that are involved with that tomorrow, and that'll come out at some point here over the course of the next week or 2. And we're still going to do some of our supplementals over on the coffee account as well, guys. We got to get back to where we're doing that. I don't know when we're going to schedule it, but we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we will.
Hey, how do I sound? Any better?
About the same, really.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
No,
I don't
it's
understand.
okay. It's all right. I mean, you sound okay.
It's fine.
It's
fine.
You sound fine. So.
It's
all
fine.
Right. We are almost at 2,400 listeners, 2,400 members in our Facebook group. So if you're not a member of that group yet, you need to get on over there and join. The 2,400 member will get a special prize, special gift from me. Somehow I'll get it to you, regardless of where you live. Not going to tell you what it is. It's a total surprise. So, but that'll be for our 2,400 member of the group. At one
It's
point,
a lock. It's a lock of his hair.
Yeah, well, it's the beard that I've shaved off. There is no beard anymore. I kept it. It's in a glass jar. I'll ship it to you. That's disgusting.
Did you turn it into a tribble?
Yeah, I could have. I actually did it outside on the deck because I was afraid it would just get everywhere, and it was windy out, so it did get everywhere, just not in my yard.
Nice.
So some birds are using it as nesting now. Okay, that's all we got on the feedback section. Anything else, gentlemen?
No, we just, we've got our topic for the day.
Yep. All right, ready to get right into that? Let's go.
Yeah, let's do it.
I love being able to play those right in the middle. I mean, that's just great.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, anyway. All right, Daniel, start us off.
Yeah, so earlier this week, Alex Kurtzman, producer of Discovery and Picard and the new leader of Star Trek, apparently.
That's pretty much what they're
was
putting
on
in the face of.
The supreme chancellor of Star Trek.
Supreme leader Kurtzman.
Our emperor.
He comes from the dark side. Okay.
Yeah, well, he was on another podcast, Deadline's Crew Call, and he basically just laid out everything that they're doing currently with Star Trek, and it was really interesting. It's about a 45-minute interview with him, and he's pretty candid about a lot of things. I just listened to the interview before we started. One of the things that I thought was interesting was he talked a lot about the influence of the J.J. Abrams films, because, of course, he was part of that team as well.
Yep.
He also talked a lot about the things that they learned from those films to current. One of the things that he brought up that I guess never occurred to me, but before the first film, they actually had to go to Leonard Nimoy and talk to him and get him on board with everything, right? With blowing up Vulcan and all that. And so they got Nimoy's blessing for that, to do that. And that's how we got that whole storyline, because they wanted to bring him in. A lot of other interesting things were brought up too. The fact that, anything that he's planning is at least 3 years out, because pre-production, and then how long it takes for them to do to build all the sets and cast and get all the crews in place. So he's got a plan, a 5-year plan from now, and they're in the middle of it, and they're working on it.
So one could say he has a 5-year mission?
Indeed, I thought of that as well. Yes, indeed,
I did as well. Yeah, I thought that too. It's like, oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, he talked about it as being a 5-year deal, but he has a 5 to 10 year roadmap that they have lined out. So that's substantial.
The one of the main goals, he said, is he's like, look, we've got a loyal fan base, but we need to grow it. We need to expand that, And one of the points that he brought up was, in Star Wars, kids are caught very early at a young age with Star Wars, right? And that there's those moments of like, oh, I want to be Luke Skywalker, or I want to, be a Jedi. And he's like, you don't really have those moments with Star Trek, because there's no material for younger kids.
Well, it's cerebral.
So
it's more cerebral.
Yeah.
There's more thought put into it, as evidenced by the latest Star Wars trilogy.
Well, one of the points he was making, he's like,
burn.
One of the points he was making was that, like, it's not necessarily that, oh, we need to sell more toys to the kids, but if we want them to love this franchise, we need to get them at an earlier age. So that's why the whole Nickelodeon show is being created. So I thought that was interesting.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, they totally screwed that up with Wesley Crusher. I mean,
yeah, he brings that up.
They really did screw that up. I mean, Wesley's character, man, could have been. I mean, it started rough, like everything first season of TNG does, and they could have done so much with his character, and they really didn't. It's like every once in a while they wrote an episode that kind of like, well, let's highlight what he's doing now, and then they just totally drop it and forget about it. And I mean, and then in the movies they bring him back in one episode, in one of the movies where he's just standing there. He's almost got no lines. It's like, or does he have any lines at all? I don't remember.
In the theatrical cut, he has no lines.
Yeah.
He is basically sitting in the background, wearing a Starfleet uniform, so that everyone can wonder why he's wearing a Starfleet uniform and not traipsing around some higher plane of existence.
Yeah, he's supposed to be a traveler at that point, right? So I mean, they just totally screwed up his whole. And I honestly don't think that even during the TNG run, he really had any appeal to the younger audience that they wanted him to have an appeal to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he did. I think he just annoyed the shit out of everybody watching it. That's about it.
Yeah, probably. So he talked about that. He talked about that for Picard, they brought Patrick Stewart very early on to kind of get his input on what Picard would be doing.
Sure.
And he brings up a good point that, like, nobody knows Picard like Patrick Stewart. So
no one knows Picard like Jean-Luc.
Yeah, like Jean-Luc. So like they default to him a lot with like character questions. Yeah, it's smart.
I mean, here's a guy who's played that character for almost his entire career, really, if you look at it. How old was he when he started playing Picard? What was he, like 37, 30, almost 40? He was 40 years old, something like that. I mean, he's like
I think he was 38. I think.
I mean, he looked like he was 60, but he was 38. So
he didn't look like he was 60. He looked like he was in
his 50s maybe. But no, I mean, this is a guy who's been playing that role for a really long time, and it's not like he's just an actor who played a role, right? He is someone who had a theatrical background. This is a smart man. This is not, I mean, not to put down, like, I don't know, Siddig or anybody else in DS9 or well, really, if you think about it, what's his, Rene Auberjonois, whatever, how do you pronounce his name? Rene, who played Odo. That's another one who has kind of a different background. Same thing with Jeffrey Combs. They have a little bit different background than just your standard actor in a television series. These guys were all involved in theater. They did a lot of different theatrical plays that were more in-depth. I mean, these are smart guys who really know their craft. Not that, Leonard Nimoy didn't know his craft or Walter Koenig didn't know his craft, but
but like Jonathan Frakes didn't have that background.
No, but there's another guy who's turned out to be extremely intelligent, right? So, but you wouldn't ever say that about Tom Paris.
I would. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
What do you mean? He was in the Masters of the Universe movie.
Yeah.
That's right. Oh man, I forgot about that. Eating fried chicken and He-Man.
But that's kind of what I'm getting at. I mean, there's a different level there with some of these people with what they do, what they've accomplished before, what they're doing after. There's a little bit different level there, So,
like my dad would say, not everybody makes the all-star team.
Yeah, and he's definitely the all-star. Yeah. So it makes sense to bring him on and get his thoughts. And I mean, they had him in the writing room for 2 weeks, and that's brilliant.
Well, and what was interesting too is he brought up the fact that Jonathan Frakes has been so part of Discovery from pretty early on, and they've had long conversations about Star Trek and what it means, and apparently Kurtzman and Franks really relate to each other because when they first came on board with Star Trek, they were outsiders. They didn't know much about the franchise. They didn't know, they didn't grow up with a love for it like, a lot of other people. So they kind of view it a little bit differently. So that's kind of neat, the fact that Riker's telling them what's up,
They better have an infusion of that like heavily for Picard if they don't want to have the same type of reaction to it as they got to Disco. And
yeah,
I could say all kinds of things about Disco, but I am excited about season 3 because they can finally kind of infuse some real, not behind the scenes. What the hell? How does this fit in with everything else? Now they've got, they're unchained from canon, as they say.
That's right.
So
remember his great quote? I don't care. I don't care.
I need to have some show tunes lined up on my soundboard so I can just play them at times like that. Anyway, keep going, Daniel.
Yeah. So more show tune talk. Welcome to Show Tune Cast.
Well, this was supposed to be Food Cast. We're going to talk about seafood, right?
Oh, I went to seafood last night. It was great. Oh man. Anyway, probably the most exciting thing was teaching my brother how to crack crabs.
Yeah.
Yeah, people don't know. My brother has Down syndrome, so it's a little more difficult for him to get the dexterity. But yeah, that was a blast teaching him how to do that. But
and Dan's over there about to puke. Okay.
Yeah, they brought up a ton of stuff. They very briefly touched about like if they are going to start doing toys, the toys need to make sense and like matter. Whereas in the past, like Kurtzman specifically brought up the Star Trek Spock helmet.
Yeah,
that was just terrible. So there goes my hopes of another Disco and Spock helmet. So.
I was going to say, actually, at this point, it might actually be funny for them to put a Spock helmet out as kind of a joke. Make 1,000 of them and sell them for big money as just a joke.
Like a modern version of it?
A modern version of it, yeah. Which I guess for a modern version of it to be related to Disco, I guess they'd have to make it spin or something.
I feel like when Spock and Michael Burnham were out in the asteroid field and kind of like talking to each other towards the end, if Spock had put on a helmet like, oh, this is an experimental ship, I need to wear that would have been the perfect time.
And you just turn on the rotating red lights.
Yeah. Well, to attract the Red Angel, you gotta have the red lights. I think they lost their opportunity, but
I think they did. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's get back on. Let's use the tractor beam and get back on track here. Go keep going.
Wow, nice.
Look at that. That's all.
How long were you waiting for that?
We do need it. We talk about everything.
He woke up in the middle of the night. He was like, I'm going to get a sound of a tractor beam for when we go off track and I can pull us back in. Yeah. And his wife rolled over and said, go to sleep.
Like, what the hell? My wife said, what the hell's a tractor beam? No. To which I did this. Are you my wife?
So,
keep going, Daniel.
Yeah, another thing that he brought up was that when he first originally approached CBS about bringing Star Trek back to life, he had to explain to them that, like, look, you're not going to get 100 million new fans immediately. This is going to be a building process, and we've got to redo the franchise and really build it up before it'll really take hold. And so that's what they're in the middle of right now. But it seems to be working. Like, we did that news story a few months back that CBS All Access has reached their goals far faster than they anticipated. Mm-hmm. They're clearly throwing more money at this. Like more shows.
Who's walking past the shuttle pod, Dan?
What's that?
Who's walking past your shuttle pod?
Oh, you can see that?
And yeah, I can see a reflection in the back glass.
Yeah, that's the in-laws. The in-laws came over.
That's nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, so years past, there's this thing. There's always been this thing called with movies or franchises or genres. There's a fatigue factor, right? Mm-hmm. So everybody said when Marvel announced their big MC universe that at some point people are going to get fatigued by it, and there's going to be this. Who's going to care anymore, right? Well, that apparently has not been the case this time around with the MCU over the last 10 years. I mean, holy crap. They make $1 billion everything they release. So
they're making more of those movies?
They're making a few more, yeah.
Yeah.
Back in the day when Star Trek was on and you had Enterprise and then you had Deep Space Nine and then you had Voyager and then you had Enterprise, all of them kind of on top of one another at some point, whether it was movies or the shows. there was that fatigue factor that everybody kept talking about back then. I would almost tell you nowadays there is no such thing as a fatigue factor with a franchise anymore, unless you just flat out ruin it. Like, what is it, the monster universe with Universal and the Frankenstein and the Mummy and all that. I mean, they just totally ruined that. So I mean, you can't blame fatigue on that. Blame that for fatigue, but really with Star Trek at this point, you can have new shows year round, and I don't think anybody would get fatigued by that. Do you guys? Do you think that would be a thing anymore?
Well, I think it's smart that they want to make all the shows different and feel different, like different shooting styles and all that. I think that's going to help eliminate anything for fatigue or help greatly reduce it.
I mean, people binge the crap out of stuff nowadays, right? So I mean, it's like.
Here's the thing. If it continues to be good, then I don't think you'll be fatigued by it. Okay. The Marvel movies, for the most part, they're well made. They're well made movies that build upon each other. And you have ebbs and flows. Some of them are better than others, but for the most part, they're all well made movies.
Right.
Star Wars has put some stinkers out in the last few years. We don't have to beat this dead horse unless you want to, but DC has put out some garbage. They've put out some real garbage over the last few years.
Oh yeah, they have.
Aquaman was good. I really enjoyed Shazam.
The Suicide Squad was a masterpiece.
I don't know about that.
I'm kidding.
For the first time in probably about 6 years, I am excited for a DC movie, though. When Joaquin Phoenix's Joker comes out, I will go see that. I am excited about that. I wasn't even excited about Wonder Woman, but I went and saw it, so it was good.
But the thing with Joker, I mean, it's unlike anything they've ever done before.
Yep.
I'm just waiting for the dog welder film.
The what?
There's a DC character named Dog Welder. He's a dude who welds dogs to people.
Nerd alert! Nerd alert!
Indeed. So we need a dog welder film.
But I mean, I've been so disappointed with DC that they have their own streaming service now, and
nobody cares.
I've got like zero interest in it.
No.
And then come to find out that they canceled Swamp Thing like before the first episode even aired.
Yeah.
I guess there's something going on with, I think AT&T acquired Time Warner, which owns DC, and I guess AT&T is looking at their own streaming service. So I think this DC Online streaming service is going to hit the crapper before it even gets off the ground.
DOA.
So I don't know. Whatever.
Well,
they're all over the place in DC. They're all over the place. They're going in 100 different directions. They've got movies that suck. They've got shows on this channel, shows on this channel. The shows aren't connected to each other.
Some shows connect, some don't.
Yeah. Well, if they were smart, then they would just stop making shit for the next 4 or 5 years and start from scratch.
Yeah.
Now, granted, they've already got Wonder Woman, which is good. So as long as this next one, 1984, doesn't totally bomb, and let's say that the Joker, they actually do that one right, and you've already got Aquaman there, leave those three intact and restart everybody else around that, because you've already lost Henry Cavill as Superman,
you can't, because even Joker's in the 80s.
Oh, that's true.
You can't. Well, the Joker is fine because everybody knows that character is batshit crazy. Okay, and that whole movie could take place in his mind. Even in the comics, he's had a couple of different origins, and nobody really knows which one is real because nobody knows when he's telling the truth and whatnot. But I meant,
Garrick, yeah.
Well, I meant that you can't because Aquaman and Wonder Woman were both in that abysmal Justice League movie. So you can't just pretend, you can't go on with those characters and pretend that movie didn't happen. And they've kind of written themselves into a shitty corner, because it would be good to continue with Shazam, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman, and just start fresh from there. But like I said, you got the connection to DC, so it's like, all right, you could start with Shazam, because the only other character in that movie was Superman, and nobody ever saw his face. So if you were to recast him, it would be fine. But then you've got two really good performances of Aquaman and Wonder Woman that you would have to just cast to the side. So really, they've done a terrible. They've messed it up. And I like Henry Cavill as Superman. I don't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think Henry Cavill is going to come back as Superman at this point.
No, I don't think so either. But I mean, I thought he did great. They just didn't have good material for it.
He was a perfect Superman.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just made him evil for half that movie. So anyway.
Welcome to DC Cast.
Yeah, let's get back on to topic yet again.
Yes, exactly.
I mean,
more rants.
I need a stronger tractor beam. Okay. So I mean, that's really what it is. So
yeah,
keep
so
going,
there was a lot in that interview. Trying to think of some other stuff that he brought up that was fairly interesting. He did talk a lot about the Inner Light, that episode, and what it influenced it's had on the Picard series. In that, that episode, just like you were saying, Dan, there's no spaceships, there's no nothing. It's just character development. And so that's what they're really trying to focus on with Picard. So that made me pretty excited that, they're deep diving into characters. The other thing he mentioned, he's like, look, TNG, any one of those characters could have been the lead for an episode, and oftentimes were. It was just different. The Geordi episode, the Worf episode. That's what they're trying to do with the cast of Picard. That if whatever was needed, those guys could do it. So I like that they used that kind of blueprint. That was cool.
Yep. I'm trying to look and see what they...
Did I lose you guys?
No.
We're here. Different animation styles, different tones is what they call it as far as the animation stuff goes.
He, for the animated shows, he said that Into the Spider-Verse and Love, Sex, and Robots, or whatever that is, were big influences on what they're doing. In that, like, they're beautiful and they look great. I don't know if they're going to go exactly those styles, but just the fact that what you can do with the animation.
We're going to do... When you say you're going to base something off of Love, Sex, and Robots, and it's going to be Star Trek related, I mean, that does not mix well in my mind. I mean, I get the visualization of it, but holy crap.
Now we know why Brent Spiner's coming back.
Yeah.
Are you fully functional?
Fully functional with Data. That's the kids show.
That's the kids show. Oh my gosh.
Oh boy.
Man, I don't know. I mean, that is one thing I can say with 100% assurity about what they've done so far with Discovery and what it looks like they're doing so far with these other shows, the short treks and now Picard. What little we've seen of Picard, it's going to be visually appealing.
Yeah,
I have no doubt there they will make it look really freaking cool.
Yeah, it's going to be.
One of the things that they had in that conversation that was very brief and they glossed over, and lots of people have been talking about online over this last week since that interview came out, was the whole, you're going to have lots of different shows and they're all going to be varied for different, a little bit different audiences, a little bit different take to try to draw more of a bigger crowd into it. But it's a universe, right? It's the Star Trek universe. And one of the things Kurtzman said is there's an entire universe that's been built up over the last 50-plus years that's barely been explored. Everything's been at the helm of a ship or at a space station, and nothing else really outside of that's been explored really heavily, in canon anyway. Obviously in books and comics and other various ways it has. But outside of that, it hasn't. And so that led... And part of that interview led to some speculation about how all this stuff could possibly be tied together. So Number one, people are talking about how Picard can be tied into Discovery, and I'm just like, you got to be effing joking me. Don't even. I do not want to see Picard tied into Disco at all for any reason, other than maybe a glancing reference here and there, because whatever happened is still canon. It's still in the same timeline, so it has to be in people's thoughts and minds. But this whole Picard mind melded with Sarek at some point, so he should know about Michael, and he should know about the Spore Drive, and he should know about all this other stuff. Don't even go there. Don't even go
pointless.
There. No. It needs to be, Picard needs to be its own standalone thing that fits in canon, but shouldn't necessarily be drawing in or having references to the other shows. Now, maybe another show after that, if they decide to make one that's around that same time era as Picard, with a new cast and a new crew and a new ship or whatever. Okay, fine. I can understand there being some tie-in there. But we don't need to take Discovery that's 100 years before and now 800 years into the future from where Picard is at and try to find a way to mesh it together. I don't...
Yeah, when you do Geordie Loves Books, then you can do like the history lesson of Starfleet.
Yeah.
You know you would watch Geordie Loves Books.
I probably would.
Yeah.
I probably would. But I don't think it needs to be tied together any tighter than that. What do you guys think on that front?
Yeah, no, I don't want to see Michael Burnham showing up in Picard or Picard showing up in Discovery. Or they don't need to be connected. As long as each one respects the canon established by the other, that's enough for me.
I would agree.
Yep.
He did bring up briefly everybody's desired show of Spock and Pike, and
yeah, we're gonna talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and all he basically said is we would love to do it, but they're not going to be part of Discovery, at least not season 3, because it doesn't make any sense. But they're aware.
He's talked about that they've had actual discussions about how to do it, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if one of these short treks is Pike and Spock in number 1. Actually, it probably should be.
Just number 1 eating a hamburger.
Yeah. Another cheeseburger with fries. She gets ketchup on herself and she has to brush it. Anyway, no.
Yeah. Spock is like, oh, it's a helmet. So excited.
No, I really think one of the short treks should be. I mean, hey, they've got the sets already. They've got everything. It's just like what they did the short treks last year. They already have all the sets. They already had all the actors under contract. They could have already done half the short treks for all we know. They were already there filming, right? I mean, how difficult is it if you're already filming existing stuff to just say, hey, let's take whatever the break or hiatus is from this episode to the next. Let's all go meet in the room for 15 minutes and record what we throw together. I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
And all those short treks all wound up, other than Harry Mudd, although maybe it will at some point in the future anyway, but they all tied back into the actual season.
Yeah, they were pre-planned.
They were pre-planned. So you would think that they already have some of these things written, or at least some ideas on the drawing board. And I would love, as much as I did not like the fact that Discovery started, a prequel or before everything, and now they're stuck inside these gray areas of what they can do and what they can't. They're chained by canon. I would love to see the Pike in the Enterprise, and even though I don't really care for Ethan Peck's Spock, he just does not look like Spock. But whatever.
I wouldn't be surprised if we get a Section 31 short trek, just so that they can experiment with different shooting styles before they go into the show.
Oh, that is a show that's coming up, so I guess that one would make more sense to have one of them be that.
Yeah, just so they can experiment around and try different ideas and kind of test the waters with the fans. Like, oh, if we do this, will they accept it or not? Like, I could totally see them doing that.
Did they say when they're gonna? They said they're gonna release these short treks before Discovery comes back on the air. I think I remember them saying that they're gonna come out in the fall again, ahead of Disco season.
Yeah.
3. That means they're gonna come out ahead of Picard as well. So that means, my hot take speculation here, I'm going to say that every single one of these short treks is going to have absolutely nothing to do with season 3 Disco, because why would they give it up that early, right? We have no idea what's happening to them or where they're at. Would they really give up that leg of mystery that soon, that far ahead?
No, they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, maybe they give us an episode where they're on a planet or something, or maybe they're on the ship, but you can't tell where it happens, if it happens before or after, and then during the course of the season, you can tell that it happened after the jump or something like that. But I don't know. Maybe they won't give up the ghost as far as what happens in season 3 by doing one of the short treks in terms of that timeline, 900 years into the future. I don't know. If it was me, I wouldn't do that. I'd make all these short treks either about something that has to do with Picard, but you can't really tell. Something that has to do with Section 31. You brought up a good point there, Daniel. They've already got that in the books. They're already planning it. They're already in the writer's room for it.
Right.
And throw in one about the Enterprise and Pike and Spock in number 1.
It could be about something having nothing to do with anyone we've ever seen before. You know, he talked about having this huge universe, most of which has not been explored. Everything we've seen is always, you know, on a starship or on a starbase or having something to do with Starfleet or the government. You know, we never get to see what a regular Federation citizen does all day. And frankly, I have questions about stuff like that. I have questions about the 24th century society or 25th century society that they've built.
Well, we do at one point. We do at one point, and he's very prominent in one series, and we see it all 7 years or 7 seasons of that series about what a normal average Federation citizen does who is not in Starfleet, and the answer is absolutely effing nothing. His name is Jake Sisko.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, it's funny. It's funny that you bring that up because I'm watching my Deep Space Nine rewatch right now. Okay, and he's one of the questions that I have. The other one was, you know, I watched the one where Bashir's parents show up and the cat gets let out of the bag that he's genetically enhanced. All right, and you come to find out that his dad is basically a bum who is always, you know, oh, I'm doing this. He's always up talking what he's involved in, and my life's work is this, my life's work is that. And, you know, he says, oh, I'm a landscape architecture, and, you know, I do all these drawings, and people are interested in my drawings, and but he's never sold any of his work. And, you know, I just think to myself, so basically, because they're a cashless society, he just sits around all day and it's fine. He doesn't have to contribute anything to society. And it basically, it paints the picture that the Federation is a gigantic welfare state.
Yeah.
And you brought up Jake Sisko and same thing. And I thought to myself, you know, when Starfleet abandons the station and the Dominion takes over, the Dominion and the Cardassians take over, and Jake stays there to report on the occupation because he's a reporter. He still has quarters. He still eats breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He still has access to the replicators. So it's like,
how does he pay for all that?
How does he pay for all that? You know, are the you know, is his Federation pension? Is that what's the exchange rate? I mean, does the Dominion just take care of its citizens the same way? What's their economy like?
It's a flat out economy. There's money involved in that. You can tell because they talk about trade deals. They talk about all this other stuff too, which of course the Federation does as well. But it's a different basis.
It's funny. There's a lot of questions there because the Federation is a moneyless society, but they're constantly interacting with other societies that are not. So there has to be a supply of latinum on the station that gets distributed to the Starfleet officers so that they can go to Quarks. Because how are they paying for things at Quarks?
Yeah, because Quark ain't doing charity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's honestly, I have never actually thought about that before. They
So
always go
is
down
there
to Quarks instead of going to the Replomat where it's free, but they go down to Quarks. How are they paying for all of that?
Yeah.
And it's I think that the Federation doesn't look at it, and nobody in the Federation looks at it as a welfare state. They look at it as you have an opportunity to explore your path and do whatever it is you want to do and be creative and contribute in whatever way you desire to contribute. And you can tell that people in the Federation that are doing something that actually contributes look down on and have a negative view of those people who don't contribute jack shit, like Bashir's parents. I mean, there's a few times throughout all of these series where you kind of see that, you kind of hear that. When someone's not there to really contribute, they're kind of looked down upon. I mean, Tom Paris even makes some comments about that during Voyager, right at the beginning, that first season. He makes comments to Janeway about it. When she comes to recruit him, there's comments made about that too. Being a good contributor to society, you know, so or to the Federation. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, everything else seems like a barter system. Seems like just a trade and barter system. But what do the Federation officers and Quark's bar use to pay for their drinks?
Like I think about like Cisco's restaurant. You know, how does that work?
Well, he just orders
you're
food
not coming
from
into
whoever's doing it, and those people.
Yeah.
That's all cash. So you want to go eat there?
But it
there
doesn't.
Every day.
But here's the thing, okay? As much as I love Star Trek, it'll never work.
No.
It'll never, ever, ever work.
No.
Because somebody's got to sweep the floor.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to clean the toilets. Okay, and no one's going to do that just for the betterment of society.
Right.
Okay, Cisco can say, you know, I'm going to cook, you know, I'm going to cook, you know, I'm going to cook Cajun food and have a restaurant, and that's how I'm going to contribute. But where does the fish come from?
Right.
Somebody gets up at 4:00 in the morning and takes that ship out to sea and performs what is basically known as the most dangerous job is commercial fishermen. If you look at the statistics, more people die on the job as commercial fishermen than anything else. So why would anyone ever choose that? And that's why the whole system doesn't work.
Well, I think you're right, Dan, and I also think you're wrong. Okay, so you're right from the standpoint that I don't believe human beings will ever get to the point to where we can have a cashless-based society or no reward for your work kind of thing. I don't think we'll ever get to that point. However, you're forgetting one key element that we have right now that we certainly will have in the 23rd and 24th century, which is robotics. You don't need I just threw my phone on the floor. You don't need a fisherman to get on that boat and go out there and fish. You're going to have a robot do that. Okay, you don't need to have somebody sweep your floors. You're going to have a Roomba, or a better version of a Roomba at some point.
Yeah.
You don't even need anybody to clean your dishes. We have automatic dishwashers that are going into McDonald's right now, for crying out loud, and going into all these other fast food places, let alone actual restaurants. So
I know, but one thing that you will never, ever, ever eliminate in human nature is competition.
Exactly.
Okay, people will always be in competition with each other, and we see it on Star Trek when Lavelle and what's her name are they're in competition for that position on the bridge, and with competition comes prestige, and with prestige comes desire to both do better and be recognized for doing better. Okay, and because of that, if your house is nicer than my house, but I feel that the job that I perform for society is more important than the job you perform for society, it just doesn't work.
No. And
but I would say
you
though
can't
that
forget the rule of acquisition number 10. Greed is eternal. Okay,
yes,
go ahead, Daniel.
Right.
And they're right.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I don't know if the whole cashless society and all that is designed for us to like legitimately be our future, but just an ideal, maybe. Kind of like self-improvement. You're never going to be perfect, but as long as you keep trying, that's really what matters.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I get.
Those people who don't try are looked down upon and frowned upon because they're not even living up to the ideals that the Federation is totally founded on, that they live in, that they're born into. So that's one of the key things about Star Trek that sets it apart, especially from Star Wars, but from a lot of other sci-fi. If you really think about it, look at every single character and every single alien that's ever been created in Star Trek. All right? Who are they and what are they? Well, number one, the Vulcans. Who are the Vulcans? They are humans, but just the intellectual side of humans, okay? Who are the Ferengi? They're humans, but just the capitalistic, greedy side of human nature, right? Who are the Romulans? Well, they're the logical, but also the aggressive nature of who we are as humans. Who are the Klingons? Well, they're the Russians. But anyway, so you know what I'm saying? you know what I'm saying? You can take every single alien and break them down into they are made to be one specific characteristic of what it means to be human. That's one of the greatest things about Star Trek and how it deals with character development and who we are as people and what humanity means. That's not really taken into they don't do that in Star Wars. They don't do that in anything else, really.
And even though it was written 30 years ago, the Borg is social media.
Oh, geez,
Yes. It really is.
It is. That's a good comparison. You're right.
Feeling cute might assimilate.
Well, which one is it? Is the Borg Twitter, or is it Facebook, or is it both? Is it just all social media?
I think it's just all social media. It's just everybody having all of their ideas in one place and instantly sharing it.
Well, it's kind of like Google then.
Yeah.
I was going to say Reddit.
Reddit, yeah.
It's Reddit.
It's all social media. The Borg is the internet. There you go. But anyway. All right, back on. Keep going, Daniel.
Where's your tractor beam?
This has spawned all kinds of conversations, more so than I thought it would, honestly. I mean, this has gone on so many different tangents. But
well, here's my question.
Yeah.
Is the Federation a cashless, moneyless society, or is Earth a cashless, moneyless planet? Okay, do they still have currency on Vulcan? Do they have currency on Andoria? These Federation, we've seen countless Federation colonies over the years. Do they use some sort of monetary system on these colonies? I mean, they don't have all of the luxuries that Earth has. When they make a new colony out in the middle of nowhere, how do they?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I would think it would be very difficult. I mean, the way that they play it out, it sounds like if you're a member of the Federation, you're in the Federation, and it's a cashless-based society. The whole Federation is, not just one planet over the other. I think that's probably not practical and probably not true. Definitely the members of Starfleet don't have any cash because they don't get paid. But I would think that like a new colony being established, they're going to have funds of some kind. It's going to start with bartering and trade, and they're going to sell their goods, and that's how they're going to get money. And before you know it, they've got their economy all based on that. But when it comes to the rest of the Federation, it's all trade. I mean, really, at the end of the day, the Federation is a giant bartered society. I mean, you don't have to give somebody anything unless they value what you have to give them in return. Maybe it's not money, but it's still an item.
Here's the thing, though. There are countries now, in 2019, there are countries that do not have their own currency. They have just said, you know what? There's no need for us to have our own currency.
Nope.
We use U.S. dollars, and that's our currency. So, if a Federation citizen can just walk up to a replicator and replicate something and then take it somewhere, well, no, it does, because if he can then take it to a Ferengi and essentially sell it to him for Latinum, I mean, what's to stop the floodgates from opening? You get one unscrupulous Federation citizen who's just like, I'm gonna replicate shit all day long. I'm gonna, I've got.
That would be me.
I've got.
So literally, I made an apple pie. Give me a bar of Latinum for my apple pie.
Yep.
And now,
But the Ferengis have replicators too.
Yes, except that replicators require power, and power must be generated and purchased, and they have, the Ferengi have an actual economy.
Very much so.
like an actual real world woodwork economy. They've decided that something has value, i.e. latinum, whatever the reason is that it has. We don't know what else latinum can be used
They had
for
to pay to
that
use
actually
the chair at the doctor's office.
Oh yeah,
in the waiting room.
Yep. I love those. I love those Ferenginar episodes. I love them when you just see how, say what you want about the Ferengi, but they're genuine. Yep. They're just genuine. They're
Walk
like, hey,
into somebody's house and has to make a donation.
Yeah, you have to make a donation, or the standard greeting is welcome to my home. What's mine is mine, or how does it go?
Yeah.
Welcome to my home. My home is my home. And the response is, the expected response is, as are its contents.
Yeah.
Right?
Warning, nerd alert, nerd alert.
Indeed.
Very true, though. Very true. You do know who you're dealing with when you're dealing with a Ferengi.
Yeah. Yeah. But, yeah, I don't know. How do we get on this?
What'd you say, Daniel?
This has been a fun show.
Yeah, it has. I mean, when was the last time we just sat around and speculated on shit and didn't have to do a solid review, and we just kind of let the thing... I mean, this is great. We need to do more of these.
Yeah, this is great.
Last week when we were testing the mics?
Yeah, that's true, too.
Yeah, pretty much. That was great. So, yeah. That turned out pretty good, too.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. Any more on the Kurtzman deadline details?
I would just suggest people go listen to that podcast.
Yeah,
Deadline's Crew Call.
I would too. Not very often we plug another podcast, but that was
It's a good one.
Lots of news drops.
It's not a Star Trek podcast. Crew Call as in like film and crew and TV.
Right.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
And there's no death threats, so that's good.
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, it might be subtle in there.
I will say that was taken out of context, the supposed death threat. If you go and really kind of dive into that, you'll...
I know, it wasn't a death.
But
it wasn't a death threat. It was a nasty comment, though.
Well, it's not the first, though. It's not her
What's
first.
that?
No.
Not even close to being her first nasty comment.
You cut out. Yeah, I keep saying death threat. It wasn't a death threat. It was basically, she said, this guy died. I wish you had died instead of him.
Yeah.
That's not exactly a death threat. It's just a shitty thing to say to someone.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
And that wasn't her first time saying something shitty about it. So, but anyway, hey, we're gonna drop that.
Yeah, whatever. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It did probably bear slight mentioning because that is big news in the Star Trek community itself, but not that big of news. I mean, maybe half the people listening to the show are like, "What the f are these guys talking about?" So good.
Sorry, they're googling it right now.
Yeah, they are. So. All right, so that's it for the interview with, or the deadline interview stuff with Kurtzman, the future of Star Trek, which looks ever so bright. That Dan's got to wear shades. So, anything else we want to cover this week, gentlemen?
No.
Daniel's eyes get real big. Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think so.
All right, well, that's it. Thanks, everybody, for listening to us. This was TrekCast TNG with the normal crew, Chad, Daniel, Dan. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another exciting episode. We've got an interview coming up about the making of fake Star Trek is what that one's all about. A new book coming out by Andy Bray and John Chin. So that'll be coming out here in the next week or so as well. Be looking forward to that. It'd be kind of interesting. It's actually kind of fun. Andy is a big fan of Vanilla Ice, so we sing a little bit. So
I do have one thing to bring up.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I don't know if people have looked at the website recently, but down towards the bottom, we have a new banner up from Entertainment Earth.
Yes.
And we've partnered with them, and so now if you guys want to help support the show, it's not just the Ko-fi account, but you can click onto that banner and go right into Entertainment Earth. They're a great website full of all sorts of geeky fun, a lot of Star Trek stuff, but if that's not just your bag, like they've got everything. Dan and I went nuts looking at the website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some cool stuff there. Very cool stuff.
So if you buy anything, we do get a portion back, but we don't. It doesn't like increase your total for helping us. It's automatic, and you guys still get cool stuff. So.
Yep. So make sure to click on that link off the website, trekcast.com. Again, we're getting really close to hitting 2,400 members in the Facebook group. If you go and join, if you're not a member of that group, the 2,400 member, and I don't know how I'm going to track that, so that'll be tough, but we'll figure it out. We'll get a little special something from me in the mail. And
little
course,
special
something.
Little special something.
Little special sauce.
Special something. Oh, Yamak sauce. It's Yamak sauce.
Yeah, Leola root.
Yeah.
I'll go buy a leek at Sprouts, and I'll put it in a bag and ship it to you. It'll have a tag on it that says Leola root.
Nice.
Anyway. But no, be able to follow. Make sure you go follow us on Instagram. That's TrekCast TNG on Instagram. Same thing on Twitter. TrekCast TNG at Twitter. And if you haven't subscribed to the blog posts that I'm writing every once in a while with my horrific grammar and badly written blog posts, please go do
that. This is very poorly written.
Yeah.
Very poorly written.
There are 31 people already subscribed to that blog post. So that's those blogs. So every time I write, 31 people are getting them in their email inbox. Thank you for those people.
Nice.
I don't know who you are, but it's great. It's wonderful. I appreciate it. And that is it, gentlemen.
All right.
I don't even have an outro in here.
TrekCast.
There
that
you
works.
go. That works.
That works.
All right, guys.
Cool. Thank you.
Have a good one.
All
Enjoy
right,
your weekend.
man. Yep, enjoy
Keep it real.
Yep, I gotta go mow.
I guess we don't have to edit, huh?
No,
We're good.
Not for the audio. No, we just have to edit for
Yeah.
the video.
Okay.
Which is easy. I can just slap some stuff on it and go.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks,
All right,
man.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right. Bye.
Bye.